So let me just say by way of opening that I'll be speaking specifically to how citizens can hold leaders accountable in this country now and the future under the broader topic that we are looking at. And just by way of beginning, I would want to mention that in addition to me being a finance professional and a media practitioner, I'm also a student of the law. I'm currently taking my professional law course at the Ghana School of Law. So I'll try to marry all three to give us some solutions as far as accountability is concerned. And I would want to thank once again the organizers for inviting me to speak on this all important matter of our country. And I must say that in my short life as a Ghanaian youth, my education, training, and professional life, they've been about optimally developing and then managing both human and non-human resources. Also advocating for the citizenry to achieve our national aspirations and also holding duty bearers to strict accountability, be it in economics, finance, accounting, the law, or in my work in the media. So the topic of accountability is very much second nature to me. And I must say that as a finance professional and a student of economics, I would want to begin by borrowing some words of wisdom from economics to set the tone. The phenomenon of market structures, they provide valuable insight into how power dynamics operate between buyers and sellers. And as we'll be seeing in a few minutes, these structures closely mirror our political realities. All right. So let me start with the market structure known as perfect competition. So in a perfectly competitive market, there are many buyers and sellers, each with negligible influence on the price or quality of goods and services. So sellers are thereby incentivized to innovate and lower costs in order to be able to stay competitive because they cannot determine price. So if they can lower cost and be competitive, then they can make better margins. While this system encourages efficiency, it has a certain low side where it often struggles with coordination, making it hard to maintain quality standards and long-term investments because of the multiplicity of the various actors, both sellers and buyers. And at the opposite extreme of a perfectly competitive market is a monopoly, where a single seller dominates the market. And monopolies maximize their power by dictating price and quality, often to the detriment of consumers or buyers. And while they can efficiently scale operations because it is just them providing the service in the market and deliver consistent products, the lack of competition can lead to inefficiency, complacency, and exploitation of the buyers or consumers. But then between these two extremes, that is the perfectly competitive markets and the monopoly, lies what we call oligopoly. And this market structure is characterized by a few dominant sellers. This system fosters collaboration between competitors to stabilize the market, but it can also lead to price fixing, where you can have the sellers colluding to determine a certain price that will be profitable to them and not necessarily efficient for the market. And they also can reduce innovation. And in the political sense, this structure resonates significantly with Ghana's political system under the Fourth Republic. Now, as a subset of oligopoly is what we call a duopoly, which involves just two dominant sellers. So while competition between the two might seem fierce, they often prioritize their mutual survival over consumer welfare or the buyer's welfare. And this mirrors Ghana's current political reality, where two dominant parties alternate power, largely sidelining smaller parties and independent candidates. Then there's a final one I'm going to talk to us about. You see, that one is called the monopsony. And that one flips the script in the case of a monopoly. So a monopsony is a situation where you have a single buyer who dominates the market, granting it substantial leverage over sellers. In the political analogy of it, citizens as buyers in a unified monopsony could wield collective power to man accountability and prioritize their interests. And while monopsonies can lower costs and enforce standards, their risk efficiency and over centralization if the buyer lacks coordination, or they risk, I should say, inefficiency and over centralization if the buyer lacks coordination and clear purpose. I'm sure by now your minds are getting to picture the Ghanaian political system within the context of these market structures that I've spoken about. Now let's go to our constitution and look at the Ghanaian political landscape. Our 1992 constitution outlines the various arrangements as far as political operations and democratic market is concerned. Article 3, Clause 1 of the 1992 Constitution provides that Parliament shall have no power to enact a law establishing a one-party state. In essence, that is to outlaw the possibility of a political monopoly, ensuring that no single party can have indefinite dominance. Then when you move to Article 55, Clause 1, it provides that the right to form political parties is hereby guaranteed. And reading that also together with Clause 2 of Article 55, which stipulates that every citizen of Ghana of voting age has the right to join a political party, you do realize that the combined effect of these two clauses of Article 55, they set the foundation for a perfectly competitive political market, granting the right to form political parties with free entry and exit to various actors. However, when you come further down that article, Article 55, Clause 7b, provides that for purposes of registration, a prospective political party shall furnish the Electoral Commission with a copy of its constitution and the names and addresses of its national officers, and shall satisfy the commission that the party has branches in all regions of Ghana and is, in addition, and this is where the meat is, organized in not less than 2/3 of all the districts in each region. So these stringent requirements for national character and infrastructure elevate the barriers to entry. And so it creates an oligopoly where you have a few political parties. And despite the theoretical pluralism, which our constitution sets out, that Ghana shall not be a one-party state, but shall be a multi-party state, our democracy has evolved into a duopoly over the Fourth Republic's 8 elections. And we can see that two dominant parties have monopolized power with no other power or independent candidate achieving more than 5% of the vote since 1992's elections. This duopoly extends into parliament, and we see it evident in the 8th parliament, where only one independent candidate currently sits alongside members of the two major parties. And even that one independent candidate really is a member or had been a member of one of the two political parties. And you know, the challenge with this duopoly as we have it is that it gives disproportionate power to political parties, reducing citizens to passive participants in the democratic process. And this, you can tell, creates a situation where the governed do not have sufficient power to put accountable the governors. And so you know, this imbalance is further exacerbated by a number of things, and I'll take you through them quickly. There's excessive presidential powers as far as our 1992 constitution is concerned. You look at the president wielding immense power, appointing critical accountability officers, including the Auditor General, the Special Prosecutor, the Inspector General of Police, the chairperson of SHRAJ, and even in the Electoral Commission. And in very recent time, this matter has become very thorny, the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court. And you know, while the Constitution provides for separation of powers, the extent of discretionary leeway in these appointments seem to undermine their independence, leaving the citizenry without adequate checks on the executive authority. And let me cite an example. When you look at Chapter 10 of the Constitution, which deals with the judiciary, it stipulates that the justices of the Supreme Court shall be appointed by the president upon the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and upon the approval of Parliament. What has also been determined in the Supreme Court are left at advice and consult because they are not compelling. So the Judicial Council can advise the president to make a certain appointment to the Supreme Court, but the president is not compelled to make such an appointment. So you see the discretionary leeway, even amidst the checks and balances that the Constitution provides for. Again, we seem to have weak local governance. And you heard from the presentation from the Afrobarometer that a number of the respondents felt that they don't have enough power to hold their local officers to task. We have a situation where the Constitution stipulates that the president shall appoint all MMDCs. And this removes local government accountability from the constituent, further centralizing power and disconnecting governance from grassroots concerns. And very much hammered is the issue of media polarization and the role of the media. You know, while Ghana boasts of a liberalized media landscape, ownership and control of a lot of our media houses, if not most, is by politically exposed persons. And this significantly undermines the media's independence, credibility, and ability to really hold authority to role as a watchdog is therefore compromised. And this allows political narratives to dominate over citizens' interests. And I'll talk about the last group being the parliament. When you look at chapter 8 of the Constitution, in fact, sorry, chapter 9 of the Constitution, you do realize that the legislature also has the additional responsibility, aside from legislating, to also exercise a certain oversight over the executive. However, the same Constitution stipulates that the president, in his appointment of ministers of state, shall appoint not less than 50% of all his ministers of state from Parliament. What that does is it creates a situation of conflict of interest for parliamentarians, because a number of people who are fighting to go to Parliament, even in this election, whose primary intent is so that they will be more eligible to be appointed ministers of state should their party win the presidential slot. What that does is it compromises and weakens the power of Parliament as well when it comes to accountability. And so you realize that systemically, the powers available to us as a people enshrined in the Constitution and other forms of legislation have been significantly weakened. So how do we shift this balance and turn the power to the people as opposed to the governors? A number of suggestions. We need to find a way of building. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, and I'll be grateful if you can put the suggestions in 2 minutes. Thank you.
Great, I'll do that. So the first would be that we building a political monopsony where there is unity of purpose, aspirations, and actions by the people. Because once we are fragmented, then the political class can take advantage of us and keep on playing us to an electocracy, as you suggested in your introductory remark. Significantly also, we need to push for the constitutional reforms. The decentralization issue where MMDCs are elected should be brought to the front burner again. There should be checks on presidential powers where we set up an independent, non-partisan bodies to be the appointing bodies for certain critical accountability offices like SHRAJ, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, a number of, in fact, even the appointment of justices to the Supreme Court to build a certain level of confidence within the citizenry. And about media independence and alignment, I propose that the NMC of necessity should have some form of appointment onto the boards of directors for all of these media organizations to play a further watchdog role so that the political owners do not continually dictate the narrative as far as the media is concerned. To conclude, I need to say that 2024 is not the magical turning point we might hope for. It is the choices we make and the deliberate actions we take as citizens and as a state that will drive change. Elections may mark the start of new administrations, but they are not the end game. Ghana's democracy can only move from business as usual to people-centered politics if we, the citizenry, stand united and uncompromising in demanding accountability. As the saying goes, power concedes nothing without a demand, unquote. And if we don't make that demand, the political duopoly will continue to sell us the same product, just in different packaging. Thank you.